Some say life is boring, but I disagree. I wake up and live my dream. Someday soon, I'm gonna make...
And joining me today is Johnny McKeever, the director of McKeever Bloodstock. G'day, Johnny. How are you, mate?
Good day, Ben. Very good, very relaxed. I'm up in Noosa having a little break in between all the recent sales I've just done before I go back down to the Easter sale in Sydney. So having a lovely time, despite the weather.
And I hear a bit of an accent there. I believe you and your wife have been stuck in Australia for over a year due to COVID issues. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's funny you should say that because there was a video me posted after I bought a horse at the Adelaide Sale, and several of my English and Irish mates came back to me and said, mate, you're starting to talk with, well, they probably didn't say mate, but they said, you're starting to talk with an Australian accent. So I suppose that's not unbelievable, as I have been here with my wife for a year and a quarter now. Yeah.
And you and your good friend, and also how I met you in Dave Mead from Pinhook Bloodstock, you guys purchased a couple at the Adelaide Sale. What was probably the highlight, that your favourite one that you got in Adelaide?
Well, Dave and I joined together. We have a filly called Grace Augusta, we own in partnership with a load of mutual mates, and she's in training with David Pfeiffer. And she's probably going to be sold at the Magic Millions broodmare sale in May. So we were looking to redo a partnership, and we decided to take a hold of the Magic Millions ladies incentive. So we bought a really gorgeous all too hard filly at the Adelaide sales for $110,000. And she is going to be syndicated for ladies only, and she's going to be trained by Simon Wilde in Warrnambool or Ballarat, whichever stable he decides to put her in. But she looks a beautiful, sharp, racy 2-year-old, and we both loved her from the moment we saw her. Funnily enough, we bid on several others, didn't get them, and then she was the last one, and we got her, and we were pretty excited. So hopefully she'll replace Grace Augusta, who's won a couple of races for us.
And talking about syndications, you were behind the purchase of Charlotte with OTI. Unfortunately, it didn't do too well in the Coolmore, but the previous start, it won a Group 3 at Flemington, didn't it?
Yeah, she's been wonderful. I actually didn't buy Charlotte for OTI.
Okay.
I bought her for Archie Alexander, also at Adelaide sales. And funnily enough, for very, very little money, she only cost $25,000, which is a small amount of money nowadays to buy a top-class racehorse. And I actually bought her off Jerry Harvey, who, obviously is the boss of Magic Millions, and he hasn't forgotten it. Keeps on chasing me to buy more of him for more money. But she's a good filly. She's a very good filly. She's fourth in the Empire Roads. Arguably could have finished closer in that if she hadn't come a little bit too early. And the Coolmore was a disaster and everything went wrong. But we put that behind us. We know that she's a very good filly, and we believe she's capable of at least placing, if not winning, a Group 1 race.
And what's the plans going ahead? Have you spoken to Archie about that for Shalo?
Yeah, I think he was one of the things that came back was he felt he hadn't probably prepared her enough to run in Sydney. And so there's a big question mark as to whether we go back to Victoria or whether he keeps training her a bit on the other leg and aims for some other. I actually don't know what the plan is for her next race, but it'll be overall to achieve. She'll be racing to try and win a Group 1 race, which we believe she's capable of. And I think they're very patient and they'll take their time. She's a gorgeous-looking, very good-looking daughter of Testarossa, and she'll make a valuable broodmare in her time when her time comes to be a mummy.
You talk about the Easter sale coming up. Inglis, I've got the catalogue here and had a bit of a look through it. They're always pretty top class, more high end of the market at Easter. Is there anything in particular that you look for at Easter?
Well, no, not really, because unfortunately I'm what they call a bottom feeder in the bloodstock sales thing. I know that I haven't got, particularly being a non-Australian agent, I haven't got the sort of clients that can afford to get in and buy these expensive stallion shaping colts or top broodmare fillies. So when I go to a sale like the Easter sale, I look through every horse in the book, and there will be a few that, for whatever reason, because they just don't capture the imagination of the top flight buyers, or because there are little veterinary issues or something like that, you can pick up, and you can actually pick them up, I find, at a sale like Easter maybe a little bit cheaper than similar horse would make if it was in a lesser, not say lesser quality, but lesser bracket sale. So I don't mind going and doing my homework hard there, but it won't be one that I pinpointed, beforehand. It'll be something that happens when I'm there. I'll see a particularly nicely bred filly, but she'll have something wrong with her conformation or veterinary report. But we'll analyse it and decide that at a certain price she's worth a punt, and if we can find clients, we'll get her. That's the way I work a sale like the Easter sale in Australia. When I'm at something like Adelaide, I'm kind of more like trying to buy exactly the one I want. But at something like the Easter sale, I'm a bottom feeder. I'm not a very important person at the sale, but I'm happy to be there, and we've got some good horses spined that way in the past.
And how's it been not being able to go to Tattersalls, Golfs, or Aquana in France due to you being stuck in Australia? Because usually you're regular at all those sales, aren't you?
Yeah. No, it's that's been getting stuck in Australia. We believe it was a blessing for us. My wife has not been well because she's been fighting a brain tumor for a long time, and one of the reasons we got stuck was when COVID came, we couldn't get out because she needed treatment. So we've been on a medical visa essentially the whole time. But her treatment has been fantastic and wonderful, and we couldn't be more excited about that. We think it's probably the best treatment she's ever had. And secondly, it's meant that I've been able to do the whole year in Australia and get to understand Australia so much better. But the worst bit of it has been A, missing our family and friends back home, and B, missing a wholesale season in England. And I'm really sad about that, because you have to keep your eye on the stock coming through, on how the foals look by the new sires, by the how the yearlings have changed from weanling to yearling for the new sires, and just the whole, if you're at the sales, you get the feeling the whole time of what's going on, who's liking what. If you're not there and you're just looking at sales results or getting a few phone calls from friends, you're not getting the same, the mental stuff that just goes in like a sponge and that you absorb and makes you an expert in the market.
And I've really enjoyed. I've really enjoyed the look of the impendings this season here in Australia, and you being able to spend some extra time here. What have you thought of the impendings, and has there been any other first season sires that you've liked?
I've liked the impendings pretty much. I didn't manage to buy one. I think I bid on one. We liked the invaders. Obviously, I tend not to sort of chance first season sires too much if I can avoid it. I find that in Australia particularly, they tend to cost the same amount of money if they're good looking stock as proven stallions. And I'd rather take my chances with something like the All Too Hards, which I took at Adelaide. I bought 2 fillies by All Too Hard, and I've been very lucky with a stallion like Star Witness. I've bought several good winners by him, and my wife was involved in Glamour, which was one of the first horses we ever took a share in Australia. So I bought a Matt Kumani, a beautiful Star Witness filly at Adelaide for 60,000. I just thought she was outstanding value. I think she would have cost double or triple by a first season sire that was a popular one. And I'd rather go with the old servant who's treated me well, So that's my view about first season sires. I like to look at them, but probably don't like to give too much money for them.
And what a ride all the girls had with Global Glamour. I remember first reading about it, and then talking to Elaine Lawler briefly about it a while ago, and just an amazing story. So many women from all over the world with a passion for racing.
Yeah, no, it was an amazing story, and it was great for us because Gay Waterhouse was the first person in Australia to ever get me to come to Australia. She let me do this for her for a couple of Magic Millions sales fair way back, about 10 or 12 years ago. And then through that, she started buying staying horses up in the Northern Hemisphere through us, and we had a hell of a lot of success with that. We bought a very good horse called The Offer of Coolmore, in fact, who everyone says you can't buy a good horse off, but and he won a Sydney Cup and several other group races, and was a very good stag, gave some great runs, and a great run in a Melbourne Cup and so forth. And we bought another couple of good Grade 1 winners, Julie Ennis and Len Cadham Gold. And so Gay and her husband Robbie and Susie and I have become great friends, and we see each other whenever they're up in England, and we always go and see them when we're down here. And we're always on the lookout for stayers for Gay and Robbie. And Adrian Bott, her partner trainer, has also travelled to England and stayed with us. And we're great friends with Adrian and Jess as well. And so I've got that kind of anchor in Australia. I've always got them to to do some work for. But obviously, since coming down here a bit more, I've sort of broadened my horizons and do a bit of work for several different trainers and individuals here. But I wouldn't mind getting some more if I could find them.
What is it when you're at a sale? What do you look for in a yearling? Every person I ask tells me different things. It would probably be different for you too.
Yeah, I mean, I was formally trained as an agent, i.e., I'm not just I worked for a big agency in Ireland that was founded and run by my father for many years, not when I was working for it, but called the McKeever Bloodstock. And we were kind of like formally trained in sort of confirmation, and you had to go around and do your 2 years with a senior agent and take it all in. And then when we did notes and we did meetings every night, and we had to go through an assessment and analysis of each lot. The meetings would go on for hours and be so boring. But it was quite good sort of training. But I have to admit that now it's really different. Now that I work for myself, I just either like a horse or I don't initially. And then after that, I walk it up and down a lot and decide, is it truly an athlete for me? And then after that, the pedigree will just tell you how expensive it will be. If it's by Schnitzel out of a Group 1 winner, it may be the loveliest and most athletic yearling I've seen, but I know I've got no chance at all of buying it. If it's by a sort of slightly lesser stallion out of a mare that I just happen to like the broodmare sire of or something, we'll give it a go and see where we go. But for me, it's at the level I buy, I can't afford to be fussy on pedigree. It's all about athleticism. And that's my interpretation of that athleticism, not anybody else's. What I like may not be like what anyone else likes.
It's interesting you talk about athleticism there, Johnny, because in Australia, the way we breed now, way we program our races here, we're probably more like we want early running types for quick return on our money. Whereas in Europe, you guys are probably a little bit more patient and you have more of a staying culture. Is that right?
Yeah, that's definitely true in Europe as an overall picture. However, racing is an extremely expensive pastime in Europe because we have no prize money. When I say in Europe, particularly bad in England, of all places, the most sort of iconic racing country in the world with the Epsom Derby, Royal Ascot, York, Goodwood, Newmarket, July. These are amazing sporting race meetings, and yet we're racing for a pittance of prize money. Like we're racing on good days at Newmarket for what you'd get for a country meeting, and it's a disgrace. And consequently, not many ordinary people like the butcher, the baker, or the candlestick maker can afford to buy a horse or even a share in them. So when we are shopping for trainers and so forth in England, I have been trained very much to look for the sharp early 2-year-old type because that's the only horse really that the type of client I buy for can afford. And it's the stayers with the Galileos out of the top class mare. They're the ones that are going to make absolute fortunes, and I can't afford them. But I understand everything about them, and I enjoy racing, classic racing, enormously. But I don't want to. I don't want it. It wouldn't affect the way I look at a yearling in Australia or the way I look at a yearling in England. It's the same. There's no real difference. I can spot the difference between a staying type and a sprinting type, no problem. And not many Aussies seem to want to buy their staying types either.
And obviously, the affordability is a bit different, Johnny, in terms of the UK and Europe compared to here. One thing I do notice is there doesn't seem to be too many syndicators in the Europe and UK, whereas here on racing.com on the TV, for example, I had it on earlier, every second ad for a syndicator.
Yeah, it's one of the huge strengths of Australian racing. It's why we are lagging behind so badly with syndicating. I think it's still down to prize money because, even if you buy a horse for £10,000 or 10,000 guineas in the Newmarket sales, and then you syndicate it amongst 10 mates and say, right, 1,000 each, and then they obviously have to pay, similar fees, more or less exactly the same training fees as you have in Australia, so £30,000 or $60,000 a year. To say that if they win a race, they're all going to get, £150 each, and then if they don't, when they sell, they're minus that, and prize money, even at that low level, having no prize money, it's pants. It doesn't enhance the ability of the young go-ahead young agent in England prepared to try out syndication. It's just such such difficult work for them. People may come in for a year and then the horse doesn't win and then they're out and they never go back. Whereas here, there's somewhat of a chance that you can actually, win enough prize money maybe to cover the year's cost of training fees. The lads have had a few good days out at the race course, and you put the horse back in an online sale and get similar money back to what you paid for it. And overall, it just seems a far more realistic chance here, and which is, I think, why it's easy to persuade people to take shares in horses. There is a sort of cultural thing as well. I don't think the English are they don't believe they own the horse unless they own 100% of it. Whereas in Australia, a guy that owns 5% of a horse will say, I've got a runner at Randwick on Saturday. It's my horse. And, it's his horse.
Yeah. Just one last one, Johnny. What's your favourite Australian sales so far? You've obviously been able to experience the sales season here in Australia because you've been here for nearly over a year.
Well, as well as everything else, sales are great fun, or, they're a wonderful opportunity for people from every end of of Australia to get together in one spot and meet up. And of course we have a great fun having a few beers after the horses have been looked at, going out and joining up with other mates and having dinners out in the town. And they're all fun. They all have a slightly different atmosphere. The Magics in January is like the first big party of the year after Christmas, and then they work their way through to Easter's possibly the more serious of the whole lot. I remember my first 5 or 6 Easters all being in town at in Kensington, and I really I love them. I enjoy them more, to be honest, than out at Warwick Farm, where it's a little bit cut off from the city. But having said that, at that sale you're there very much for business, and it's less of a fun one, but it's still great fun. I love them all. I love the people in the business as well as the horse.
Johnny McKeever, thanks very much for joining me today from Noosa. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I've enjoyed speaking to you, Ben. Cheers.